Because the other thing that New York City is in America, aside from being our nation's largest population center and the most international of all U.S. cities, New York City also has the greatest concentration of American zillionaires. And while the leaders of nations like Lebanon and Equatorial Guinea and Estonia were speaking yesterday at the UN, the magazine Forbes simultaneously released its list of the 400 richest individual people in America. And some of those people, as individuals, have a larger personal net worth than the economies of entire countries like, say, Lebanon, Equatorial Guinea, or Estonia. Some American individual people have more money than some individual entire countries. One of the big headlines out of the Forbes 400 list this year is for Charles and David Koch, the Koch brothers. Their father, of course, invented a way to turn oil into gasoline. They inherited Dad's company, and importantly, they did not take it public. It is a private company, which means that anything the company makes redounds to them as individuals, and boy, does it. They have had a banner year, their combined net worth jumping by more than 40% in the past year. The Koch brothers are up to $50 billion in personal wealth right now. And that means that as of this year, Charles and David Koch, as two people, have more money than the GDP of Sri Lanka, Slovenia, Bulgaria, Oman, Tunisia, Guatemala, Uruguay, Lebanon, Serbia, Uzbekistan, Lithuania, Costa Rica, and all of the other countries that you see scrolling by you right now. If the Koch brothers wanted to, buy Samoa, not the cookie, but the country, Samoa's GDP is $565 million, which means that the Koch brothers could personally buy roughly 88 Samoas and still have change left over. The Koch brothers have, look at the country still, yeah, okay. The Koch brothers have done really, really great with the oil and chemical conglomerate they inherited from their dad. It was the second largest privately held company in the entire country. Over the last few years, their combined net worth as two people has skyrocketed from $34 billion in 2007 to $50 billion now. They have always been rich, and I mean really rich. But in the last 5 years, the Koch brothers' net worth has been swelling like a broken ankle. It has been an awesome, awesome time for them as two men. But during that time, Koch Industries, the company, the source of their wealth, has seen something a little different happen. Here's how employment levels have changed at Koch Industries during this same time period. Koch Industries has shed employees by the tens of thousands, as the Koch brothers have gotten personally billions and billions and billions of dollars richer. Wait a minute, though. I thought rich people were the job creators. And corporations, the job creators, right? The Koch brothers are rich people, and they privately hold this corporation. And yet the more money they seem to make, the fewer Americans they seem to employ. Now, there's no reason to single out the Koch brothers on that front. I mean, it is illustrative to do so, but this is basically the story of corporations and of rich people in the country right now. As corporate profits are sky high right now, as America's biggest corporations are seeing profits 26% higher than they were a year ago, we know from the unemployment figures that those profits are not translating into jobs for Americans. For a company like ExxonMobil, for example, that is sort of how it's been in recent years. As ExxonMobil has seen its revenue go up and up and up and up and, oh my God, even further up, the number of people employed by Exxon has gone down and down and down. As President Obama and Democrats have proposed dealing with the deficit and the fiscally disastrous legacy of the Bush tax cuts that mostly benefited the richest people in this country, as Democrats have talked about dealing with those problems by increasing the amount of taxes that rich people pay, congressional Republicans have responded by calling rich people job creators. If you are rich, you are by definition a job creator to today's Republicans. And that is very cute to be called a job creator. But again, rich people are doing astonishingly well right now. And that does not appear to be translating into them hiring lots of people. Although if you ask the Koch brothers funded group, Americans for Prosperity, quote, we know that decreasing taxation and regulatory burdens on job creators and innovators is the only policy design that has ever lifted people out of poverty, spurred economic growth, and created jobs. This is the basic economic fight right now in the country. The right, including the conservative groups bankrolled by Charles and David Koch, trying to make the case that the richest people in the country and corporations are the key to the economy. That although they admittedly are doing really awesome right now, if they could just do a little more awesome. If we could just figure out some way to cut their taxes and let them make more profit, that will result in there being more jobs for other people and everything being better for everybody. Corporate tax cuts and tax cuts for very, very rich people like the Koch brothers will, in the words of Americans for Prosperity, quote, lift people out of poverty. Or at least it will help them build the pile of $50 billion they are already sitting on into an even bigger pile while their company keeps laying people off. On the other side of that fight are the Democrats and the almost united front they are finally getting around to showing for the president's jobs agenda, which does include this very populist message.
Would you rather that the oil companies get to keep their tax loopholes? Or would you rather make sure that we're hiring thousands of construction workers to rebuild America? Would you rather keep in place special tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires? Or would you say, let's get teachers back in the classroom so our children can learn? Now, the Republicans, you know, when I talked about this earlier in the week, they say, well, this is class warfare. You know what? If asking a billionaire to pay their fair share of taxes, to pay the same tax rate as a plumber or a teacher, is class warfare, then you know what? I'm a warrior for the middle class. I'm happy to fight for the middle class. I'm happy to fight for working people.
That basic policy idea apparently is stupefying to the pundit class and to the Beltway media, who cannot believe how far Obama is going out on a limb by campaigning on something like this. The policy of raising taxes on the wealthiest Americans is a policy supported by huge majorities of the American people, including something like 70 to 80% of people who describe themselves as moderates. This is a really popular idea, and every Democrat in the country can run on this very popular idea. And Democrats who are good at articulating this idea, I think, will run on this idea to great effect. Por ejemplo.
I hear all this, you know, well, this is class warfare, this is whatever. No, there is nobody in this country who got rich on his own. Nobody. You built a factory out there, good for you, but I want to be clear, you moved your goods to market on the roads the rest of us paid for. Yep. You hired workers the rest of us paid to educate. You were safe in your factory because of police forces and fire forces that the rest of us paid for. You didn't have to worry that marauding bands would come and seize everything at your factory and hire someone to protect against this because of the work the rest of us did. Now look, you built a factory and it turned into something terrific or a great idea. God bless. Keep a big hunk of it. But part of the underlying social contract is you take a hunk of that and pay forward for the next kid who comes along.
The right wing is circulating that video today as if it is something that looks bad. I think they are believing their own rhetoric about what people think about ideas like that. I think the more that gets circulated, the better people like Elizabeth Warren and other people with that message are going to do with a broad swath of Americans left, right, and center. Elizabeth Warren is probably the Democrats' best communicator on economic issues, other than maybe President Obama himself. She is now running for the United States Senate in Massachusetts against the #1 recipient of hedge fund industry contributions in the entire country, Republican Senator Scott Brown. Elizabeth Warren has been in that race in Massachusetts for about a week. She is now leading Scott Brown. Scott Brown previously thought to have an absolutely impenetrable positive approval rating in Massachusetts. But as of right now, as of the most recent poll, Elizabeth Warren ahead by 2. Populist economic messaging tends to work for Democrats. So you've got people like Elizabeth Warren out there running on that. You've got President Obama out there running on that. You've even got rich guy Warren Buffett now being drafted to go campaign for President Obama on this issue starting next month. This is the fight going on in the country right now. These are the two sides. Koch brothers and the Republicans on the rich people just need more side, and the Democrats pushing the tax the rich Warren Buffett rule on the other side. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that's new this week that you need to know. On that new Forbes 400 list, the Koch brothers combined are now a lot richer than Warren Buffett. Many billions of dollars richer. Game on.